We see the dimension in which the protests have gone in the northern region of the country, where we've seen more damage and more destruction on the street, to the point that people are so daring. They took over the armored vehicle of the police and were driving it around. We see people literally removing the bricks on the road and unleashing mayhem on infrastructure of private banks and, in fact, public property.
That a few elements took advantage of the protests to introduce the Russian flag, to make their point and to support their call for a military dictatorship, a return of the military in our country.
Compared, Mr. Falana, to January of this year, 1.14 trillion. February of this year, 1.2 trillion. March 2024, 1.12 trillion. April 2024, 1.08 trillion.
Demanded, and my organization has demanded that we take the issue of accountability very seriously at all levels of government in Nigeria. And for the elite, our job is cut out for us by this experience. Never again are we going to allow children, 18.5 million children, never again should we allow them out of school, because that is the figure by UNICEF. And over 60% of that figure can be located in the north. So there are young people, there are children who are permanently on the street. So when there is any little gathering of people, any form of gathering of people, they are bound to join. And when it is a protest for young people and for others who are hungry, who have not eaten for days, they think it's an opportunity to join the looting culture in the country. And when I talk of looting culture, I'm talking of looting, grand looting, by members of the ruling class, those who are facing trial for looting the treasury to the tune of 109 billion, or somebody is, a man who is on the run, who is being charged by the EFCC for looting a small state to the tune of 80 billion naira. So when people read about this, young people read about this, they are also instigated to want to take advantage of a protest to either loot warehouses and the rest of them. Of course, that is not justifying, looting by any group of people. But the language must now change. And I've been discussing with my colleagues. The bourgeois language of the law must change. When you are talking of looting, it must not apply to only those who are helping themselves. When you have a protest, we must, in fact, now go all out to the few people, an infinitesimal minority of politicians looting the treasury, to the extent that you have your people on the street. Your people cannot have 1 meal a day, to the extent that our roads are bad, to the extent that people are dying on the roads. So I believe that we must look at this crisis in all ramifications, not only from the point of view of law and order. The social implications of the crisis on ground must be examined. Again, as I said, we are not going to have solutions to our problems by embracing military rule, having regards to the colossal damage done to the progress of our country, the underdevelopment of our country, that is traceable to all manners of military dictators. And that is why we must go all out and ensure that no group of Nigerians will find military rule attractive.
Mr. Falana, if I may jump in quickly. Now, you look at what is being said, and I'll come in a bit to the issues of the roles of the governors, the roles of the local government chairman, and the traditional institutions in governance. Because all of these come together in the direction of the manner in which our people are being governed. So I look at it, the DSS is talking, the immigration is talking, and in the identification of those who are said to have been fingered in sponsoring the mayhem. The dimension of the Russian flags that we're saying. And we've been having this conversation in the last 2 days. And our role here as a media is to also point out what we see as a possible threat to our democracy and whatever that is strange in our land. We see the dimension in which the protests have gone in the northern region of the country, where we've seen more damage and more destruction on the street, to the point that people are so daring. They took over the armored vehicle of the police and were driving it around. We see people literally removing the bricks on the road and unleashing mayhem on infrastructure of private banks and, in fact, public property. I mean, what could have led to this? What do you figure could have brought this international dimension where we now see foreign flags being flown in our country?
Well, we're all products of our environment. The Russian flag being hosted or being taken around can be traced to the crisis in Niger Republic. As far as many of these guys are concerned, and I'm talking of the conscious elements that introduce this dangerous dimension to the protest. I think what they are trying to achieve is to say, whereas Nigeria led ECOWAS to threaten the government, the military government in Niger, this time around, we are supporting the military government in Niger, in Burkina Faso, in Mali. And therefore, since Russia is the main backer of these military regimes, we also want a situation. I mean, we are supporting Russia, and we are taking advantage of this, because if you also listen to the campaign, they are calling for outright military rule in our country. A very dangerous call. And so that explains that. But again, the Russian government through the embassy in Nigeria said, we have nothing to do with the protests in Nigeria. But I'm saying that a few elements took advantage of the protests to introduce the Russian flag, to make their point and to support their call for a military dictatorship, a return of the military in our country. And I'm saying that that will have to be resisted by Nigerians, in as much as Nigerians have the right to protest. Peaceful protests must not be allowed to be hijacked by any group of people to demand a return of military rule in our country. It's not going to move us forward. In fact, it's going to take the country more than 40 years back. And that has been our experience. And the experience of some of the countries where people are embracing military rule.
Now, yesterday, Mr. Falana, you spoke about monies that have been disbursed to the federating units. And you raised a very big flag on the fact that, which pointed to the fact that yesterday, at the end of our conversation, we were asking the question, state governors, state government, local government, where is our money? And that has been our experience. And the experience of some of the countries where people are embracing military rule. Now, yesterday, Mr. Falana, you spoke about monies. That allocation has been disbursed to the states in the last 1 year. For example, in April of 2023, the 3 tiers of government shared 872 billion naira. In May of 2023, the 3 tiers shared 786 billion naira. June 2023, the 3 tiers, they shared 907 billion naira. In July, 966 billion naira. That's what they share. Compared, Mr. Falana, to January of this year, 1.14 trillion. February of this year, 1.2 trillion. March 2024, 1.12 trillion. April 2024, 1.08 trillion. For example, Zamfara State, in the monies announced by the Budget Ministry to be disbursed to fight poverty, about 20-something billion alone we go to Zamfara State. And so the question would be, what are these monies used for?
Well, Sean, it is important to recognize that the removal of fuel subsidy last year, as I did point out in a lecture in Lagos last year, had enriched the three tiers of government in the country: the federal government, the local government, and state government. And your figures are not even quite up to date. In June last year, yes, 900 billion naira was shared, but actually what came to the coffers then was 1.9 trillion. The three tiers of government, or the two tiers, state and federal government, decided to keep 1 trillion naira. In December, it was 1.7 trillion naira. That month, on December 3 last year, the federal government disbursed 135.4 billion naira to state governments to fight poverty. Again, this money, this fund was coming from the $750 million loan taken from the World Bank to fight poverty by the state government in July. I mean, about 2 weeks ago. The federal government did another disbursement of 438.3 billion naira. Under the Buhari administration, between 2022 and 2023, about 112 billion naira from the same fund was disbursed. And my position is that in the states, in all the states of the federation, it is difficult to locate programs that are designed to confront poverty. But I must say this time around, Anambra State and Kaduna State did not partake of the 438 billion because the agency in charge of disbursing the money did say that they were still expecting the reports from the two states of previous disbursement. So we're talking of 34 states and the Federal Capital Territory haven't received 438 billion to fight poverty. Why I issue a statement on this is that whereas in December, when I pointed out that 135 billion naira had been given out as part of post-COVID-19 program, this money had been given to the state. I was abused by one of the presidential aides. I think one Tope Ajayi came out to lambast me that I was exaggerating the figure. Now, happily, the federal government has now been compelled to say the total sum of 570 billion naira had gone to the states in the last 9 months or thereabout. In other words, the 135 billion naira and the 438 billion naira, totaling 573 billion naira. So if you have that kind of money in our country, I am challenging the elite. I'm challenging our people, traditional institutions, youth organizations, women groups, and the rest of them to go to each of the states and demand from the governments what projects are going to be carried out from this fund.
Mr. Falana,
and I'm also
Mr. Falana,
Nigeria.
let me come in quickly.
Yeah, no, just one point.
Yeah, let me
point.
Yeah.
I'm also pleading with Nigerians to ask the legislators, those who took 500 million naira in Abuja, the Senate president that took 4 billion naira for constancy project. This is the time to ask what these projects are about. We must ask each of the legislators in Abuja, so that we can begin to take accountability seriously. And beyond the protest, we must now go back to the drawing table to demand for accountability.
Yeah, what I wanted to
In
point
all
out, because
terms
of
of
our time
government.
quickly, Mr. Falana, is that the 750 million US dollars that was published in the newspapers,
Yes.
disbursed to
Yes.
the states as reimbursement to states and the FCT, which it was supposed to be COVID-19 Action
Yes.
Recovery and Economic Stimulus Program. That money, Mr. Falana,
NGCAS,
is
yeah.
a credit. And what happens in a credit is that the World Bank supported credit. Either one way or the other, you will pay it back. Now, for example, Mr. Falana, Zamfara said we will receive over 49 billion. Nasarawa said we will receive over 27 billion. Plateau said over 26 billion. Gombe said over 25 billion. Kebbi said 21 billion. Cross River, 20 billion.
Yes.
Rivers, 19 billion.
Yes.
Niger, 17 billion. Mr.
Yes.
Falana, this is the purpose of this money.
Yes.
It's a program for result intervention where states and FCT invest their resources, produce results in line with agreed protocols, and get reimbursed by the federal government after independent verification exercise for grants for poor and vulnerable household and for food security services. That is the purpose of that money. And yesterday when we told our viewers
We want
the
those
hashtag
projects
where is our
published.
money needs to start now, it's a serious matter, isn't it?
Now, those projects must be published, for which reimbursement is being claimed in Abuja. If you are saying that a state like Zamfara has spent 21 billion naira on fighting poverty, we want to see the evidence. Because Nigerians are going to pay back the loan. And that is why it is the business of everybody to demand accountability. And that is not to talk about the monthly statutory allocations that have improved, that has increased. So the monthly statutory allocation of each tier of government, federal, state, and local government. Again, Nigerians must demand explanation. We must also demand explanation from legislators, state and federal, that are also collecting money for constituency projects, so that these projects can be located in the constituencies in the interest of our people. And that is how you can prevent it, by fighting poverty, by creating jobs, that you can begin to address the problem that drive people to the street.
All right. Mr. Falana, we need to close this conversation in 30 seconds. Has there been a big lesson learned on everyone's side? Because the protesters must also have learned a lesson when the federal government says, look, there might be a possible hijack. On the side of the security agencies, definitely lessons must have been learned. On the part of the federal government, lessons also learned. But we also as citizens must now learn that, look, this country is not about the federal government alone. It's about also everyone that is involved in the whole gamut of governance in Nigeria. In 30 seconds, how do you summarize the lessons learned across board?
The president has said, President Bola Tinubu has rightly said that he appreciates the problems, the crisis, the hardship that drove people to the street. And I think that is very fundamental. Secondly, the question of fuel subsidy, which the government says we cannot remove. But the government has just announced that 450,000 barrels of crude oil will be given to the Dangote refinery every day. And the refinery will be asked to pay in naira. The government must now sit down with the company. What is the implication of this opportunity being given to you with respect to the pump price of petroleum products in our country? Secondly, the NNPCL has announced that the Port Harcourt refinery, 2 of them, will come on board, will commence operations again in August, while Warri and Kaduna will commence operations in December. And this will mean that not less than 1.2 million barrels of crude oil will be refined in Nigeria daily.
All right.
And this government should be advised,
all right,
to ensure that those dates are not shifted again. And once you can do that, the crisis of importing fuel will be over, and then there will be more money.
All right.
In terms of the money being wasted now,
All right.
billions of dollars to import fuel will be saved for development.
Mr. Falana, thank you so much, as always, for your time and the resources in terms of knowledge and depth of conversation that we have on this issue. Thank you so much for our country to be better for it. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.